Hello, welcome to another video. And in this video, I want to talk about the compounding effect of taking action when starting a business. But first, I want to tell a story about one of the greatest leaders of all time, and this guy is called Nelson Mandela. If you're African, if you've studied African history, you know about Nelson Mandela. And here's the story. Nelson Mandela grew up in apartheid South Africa. South Africa back in the 50s and 60s was going through a similar process with segregation as Jim Crow United States. And black people were being ruled by the minority European population. So the majority black population was being discriminated with housing, education, overall opportunity. What Nelson Mandela realized is that he couldn't go any further than the education that he'd received because he was a trained lawyer at the time. He studied law and he was frustrated by all the injustices that were going on in his country of South Africa. So he decided to take action. Unfortunately for Nelson Mandela, the people that were in power at the time, this is the minority European population, didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that Nelson Mandela had a vision to help his people and overall make sure his people got the opportunity they deserved. Because this was his country after all, and they were colonized by the Europeans. So what the Europeans did was they threw Nelson Mandela in prison, where he was for 27 years. Yes, you heard that right. 27 years. Nelson Mandela, instead of him giving up, what he decided to do was to study how his oppressors were taking power, how his oppressors were moving. He studied their game. He got more education. He read a lot of books. He read up on the laws of the land so he could better prepare himself for a case so he could come out. He decided to make alliances with some of the people that felt the same way that he did. Slowly but surely, this took 27 years, mind you. A lot of people flaked out on him. And these things happen, especially when you're starting a business. You might find people that claim to be on your side. They want to help you out, but they flake out on you. Maybe the funding dries up. Your cousin or your uncle that promised to loan you some cash, they flaked out on you. The same things happened with Nelson Mandela. But of course, Nelson Mandela did not give up. He continuously took action, small incremental action towards his ultimate goal, which is to be freed. In his pursuit to seek justice and freedom for himself, he discovered that he was gaining a lot of followers because a lot of people started to learn about his story. And they discovered that it was completely unjust that he was in prison for fighting for their rights. So slowly but surely he started gaining followers. This is pre-social media. Can you imagine trying to build a following with no Instagram, with no Facebook, with no YouTube? It was very difficult in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Eventually, he gained such a massive following that his oppressors couldn't help but to release him from prison. And when they released him from prison, he became the leader of the country. He was elected the president of South Africa upon his release. Moral of the story is this. Sometimes you start from the back, from the real bottom, but if you persist by taking small incremental gains, eventually you're going to get to your goal. Unfortunately, when a lot of people are trying to start a business, we are so consumed by the final destination and we ignore the small steps that are required in order for us to get to the finish line. We see the goal that we want to accomplish, which is starting a home care business. We see it as a mountain that is insurmountable, like Mount Everest. We see it that way and we get overwhelmed. We get so caught up with the magnitude of the task at hand. What we forget to realize is that in order for you to get to that destination, all you need to do is worry about the next step. Instead of focusing on the bigger picture, which is fine to do, but focus on that one step that you need to take in order to get you closer to your destination. You find people who are successful in losing weight understand the same psychology. It's called the compounding effect. The compounding effect of taking action. So instead of you taking this massive action, which it can get super frustrating and overwhelming, you need to focus on that one little step. Maybe that one little step is don't drink soda every day like you used to do. Maybe just cut out sugar, change your diet, and incorporate that into your daily habits. And before you know it, you look up one day, you're like, OMG, I've really lost 100 pounds, or I've really lost 20 pounds. It's a similar process when starting a business. I find that a lot of people worry too much about how much they're going to have to pay for taxes, how to manage 10 employees. And I say to them, do you at least have one employee? Why are you worrying about 10 employees if you don't have one? Why are you worried about your taxes right now if you don't even have one client? Worry about the small steps that it takes for you to get that first client before you worry about your taxes. Your taxes will come after you focus on getting a client. Because getting a client is the 20% effort that'll get you 80% of the results that you want. Business is about making money, and that's what you need to focus on. And lastly, a lot of people get caught up in their limiting beliefs. If Nelson Mandela had been limited by his mindset, he wouldn't have believed that he could get out of prison and become the leader of his nation and become one of the greatest leaders of all time. If he had worried about the insurmountable odds that were against him fighting against this tyrannical regime, if he had worried about that, he wouldn't have made the gains that he made. Only he knew that, hey, all I have to do is take one step at a time. And I encourage you to have the same mindset and remove all limiting beliefs that you have. Because some people don't believe that they can eventually have 10 clients. But getting to 10 clients starts with one. Getting one client starts with you practicing on how to do your sales. Getting that one client starts with you setting up your marketing process so that it's super efficient, so that you can get consistent leads coming in, consistent clients that you can close. If you've started your home care business already and you're struggling to get your first client, I encourage you to explore Google advertising. Google advertising is the most efficient way for you to get clients. And we've created a course. You can check it out, preview. Link is in the description of this video. In that course, we'll teach you how to buy keywords on Google so that people that are searching for the services that you have to offer can look you up, contact you, and you can close them. And we can teach you how to do the sales as well. I hope you get some value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.